Okay, now I want to mention Kujadosha.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Mangal Dosh.
Mangal
Kujadosha, Mangal Dosh, Manglik. This is when a person has Mars in the first, fourth, seventh, eighth, or 12th house, and they say it causes divorce or marital problems. And if you're in India, they can arrange a marriage. Two people that have Mars affliction can marry. The problem is lessened quite a bit. In America or the West, they don't arrange marriages. So I tell people, wait until the late 20s or early 30s. Don't get married too early.
Mm-hmm.
Because after they have some negative experiences over the years, they begin to use their brain. Oh, I'm attracted to that person, but I've noticed that every time I get attracted to someone, it doesn't work. Let me find someone that is very nice and good to me, where there is some attraction, but it doesn't have to be huge, okay? That's how you handle it. Now, one of the mistakes that is made is that when I do a chart for a client, I always tell them, if they have Kujadosha, I say this is very common. 40% of the people have it, approximately, because it's so many houses, right?
Yeah.
Now you get astrologers who say, oh, I see Kujadosha in your Navamsha. I see Mars affliction in the marriage chart. If you're going to use the natal chart and the marriage chart for Kujadosha, you've now upped the odds so that 80% of the people have it. And then on
moon also, right?
And then on top of that, they'll say, oh, I see it from the moon. Now you've got it at 120% of people. This is just, now, the thing is, we laugh about this, but it's really not funny because astrologers don't go by what works enough. They go by what the theories and the concepts and so their teacher told them, oh, you can use everything. So they use it. They don't use the common sense to ask, wait a minute, let me think about this a little bit. That's what is important, okay? Enough said, that's a simple matter. Another feature, the gemstones.
Oh, yeah.
You will notice that there's lots of disagreements with gemstones, how to prescribe them.
Yes.
Okay. So the things that everybody should generally agree on is this. You always wear the gemstone of the ascendant. Doesn't matter whether it's Mars, Saturn, malefic, benefic, doesn't matter. You always wear the gemstone of the ascendant. Now, this is what I was taught, and that's also what I find to be accurate. You can wear any stone if it's the ascendant ruler. You can wear any stone if it is the dasha. So if you come to a Saturn dasha, you wear the Saturn stone. If you come to a dasha of a planet that's afflicted, it doesn't matter. You wear the stone of the ascendant and the stone of the dasha.
Even if it's a malefic for the particular ascendant?
Period, end of story.
You've seen it working?
Yes. Now here's the thing. If you are a follower of the systems approach, that's a whole other system. That system doesn't work for me, so I don't use it. So I don't care about the functional benefics and functional malefics in terms of the gemstones. I don't care about that. And I don't make that big of a deal of it either. A functional malefic, like Jupiter rules my 8th house. It's a benefic, but it's a functional malefic. That doesn't mean that Jupiter just causes bad effects. No, it's still Jupiter, and it carries some negative effects. Now, again, you take what I say, you test it. If it works for you, you use it. That's what works for me. The other stuff is absurd. To say that Jupiter becomes a terrible, horrible planet, it doesn't work in practice. And I've tried it. I've tried it. It does not work. Now, when people begin to tell you, the other astrologer said about gemstones. The other astrologer said this about gemstones. Then you say, I want you to go back to that person and ask them, what scripture did they get that information from? Watch them do a song and dance, because they have no answer. They have no answer because the sages did not say how to wear stones. They never said it. They simply said what it is. And if they say, you cannot wear a Jupiter stone with a Mars stone. You cannot wear this stone with that stone. Then you say, ask them, what do they think about Navaratnas? A Navaratna is very traditional. It's all 9 stones.
Yeah.
It's all 9 stones. Okay, so here's the thing. It's not about taking what I'm telling you and having, now you can lock it away in the vault. It's to tell you to think, to always be discriminating. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust the scriptures. Don't trust me. Don't trust Padya. Take what they say and go and work and see if it works.
Coming back to gemstones, it's always been a very, it still remains a controversial topic. There are people who say, oh, it doesn't work. There are people who say it works. You've seen it working, I guess so, because you're speaking about
the gemstone.
Can you give an example or two where you've seen miracles happening out of gemstones in your practice?
The gemstones work, but they have to be understood properly. Mm-hmm. If a person comes to me and says, I have a bad married life, what gemstone do I wear to make it a good married life? I say to them, there's no gemstone that's going to do that. I'm poor, now I want to be rich. What gemstone do I do to get rich? I said, no gemstone. And you know what? It's not so easy, because they actually come to me believing that if they wear a gemstone, now they're going to get married. It doesn't work like that. It is a protection. It is a subtlety. It's a subtlety and it's a protection. I have seen it work. But first of all, there's no way that you can prove that it works, okay? But I have seen in experiences that occasionally you will have something occur. Now, when you're going to see the gemstone work is in the beginning. And after that, I don't think you're going to see it working. It will be working, but you're not going to see it, because it's not going to cause some huge miracle day in and day out, okay? So I'll give you an example. I had a client who was wearing a very large blue sapphire. And this was it was a Saturn stone, and Saturn was conjunct the ruler of her career house. It was not good for a career. And she hadn't had a job in years. And I said, where did you get that blue stone? It's a very expensive stone. She said, my mother gave it to me. I said, terrible stone. Get it off. She called me and she said in 2 weeks she had gotten a job. Okay, so now this is not proof that it works, but there's a lot of those kind of experiences. I will tell you the one where I can tell you, I got this 12-carat yellow sapphire. Wow. And the reason I got a 12-carat yellow sapphire was because I was coming to a dasha that could kill me. Now, when I got the stone, first of all, let me say this. In India, to test the stone they're going to buy, they get the stone, they tape it to their body, and they walk around for 3 days, 2 or 3 days. They watch the news that comes to them. They watch how they feel. And I would say one other thing. When you look at that stone, you're doing your work and you happen to see your stone. If you happen to look at that stone and it doesn't make you happy, something is wrong. It's not the right stone. If you buy a gemstone, if you're told get an emerald, you can't afford the really good one, so you get one that it bothers you for some reason. It's too dark, it's too light. I would say it's better not to get the darn stone. Part of the effect of it is that you're living your life, you see the stone, and it reminds you, oh, this is helping me. I mean, it works on a lot of levels. When I got the yellow sapphire, within a week, 2 things happened. Mm-hmm. My intuition in my astrology, it suddenly got very strong. So what is this? Then I remembered Jupiter rules my 8th house, which is astrology and intuition. Within 10 days of that stone, I got a letter from Germany saying, we want to publish your first book, Ancient Hindu Astrology, in German. Here's what you have to understand. Jupiter rules my 11th house, which is major goals and desires. Major goals and desires. I just got a 12-carat Jupiter stone for the 11th house. For 5 years, I had sent that book to German publishers over and over. They said, no, we don't want it. No, we don't want it. Finally, I stopped sending it. I got this stone, and within 10 days, I get a letter saying, we want to give you $10,000. We want to publish it in German. And they did. But now, after that, that's letting you know the stone is working.
Yes.
After that, you just wear it. You can't prove anything anyway, but they do work.
But in that sense, observation is the main topic.
Yeah, you're not going to, you know what? I have lots of stories about people doing yagyas and getting miracles. If I tell those stories to someone who doesn't believe in yagyas or mantras, they're not going to believe it. I can't prove it. Could be a coincidence.
James, just a query. Which year was when you wore the stone?
It was right before my Jupiter Dasha.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was like 97 or something. It was
97 your Jupiter Dasha started, if I'm not wrong.
Pardon me?
97 your Jupiter Dasha started.
I'll tell you in a second. I have a computer here. My Dasha for Jupiter was September 97. So it's around that time that I got the stone. Uh-oh, I think have I lost you?
No.
Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. Okay.
So this stone basically proved that even though it is your eighth lord, as you said. Hello.
Let me give you another explanation.
Okay.
I had a Brigu reading done. Not when I was in India. I tried to get a Brigu reading twice. Couldn't do it. The doors were closed when I was in India. Years later, a student of K.N. Rao was a friend of mine. She said, James, I can get you a Brigu reading. She gets the Brigu reading.
Mm-hmm.
It says the reading is going to be heard by a friend. The people that are coming have just visited a Krishna temple. They're all hungry. She told me all of that was true. Within that Brigu reading, it said, you must wear a large, square Jupiter stone.
Oh.
It didn't even say for the dasha. It didn't say, just said you must wear it. Please, when you prescribe gemstones, just remember there are Navaratnas. They have all 9 stones. And if it's the dasha, it is traditional to wear it. If a person wants to say after the dasha, I'm not going to wear it, that's fine. But in the dasha, how can you not wear it during the dasha? You're in that period now. Anyway.
In that reading, I'm a bit curious. Sorry, I'm taking you off the topic. I'm a bit curious about your Brigu reading. Did it mention about your past life or anything?
It said I had ties to India. It said I would write a great book, a great historical book. It said I had ties to India. It said I would be a teacher. I would be an intellect. It gave the details of my first marriage, divorce. They said she'll try to come back to you, but she shouldn't bother, which was exactly what happened. It was not 100%, but they knew I would be an astrologer. Said he'll be an astrologer. Oh, yeah. Said he'll be an astrologer. They said he will have a sanstha. And I said, what is a sanstha? But yeah, it said to wear the yellow stone. And
okay, speaking about a sanstha, how come you never created a huge institute?
It's not my nature. It's just not my nature. It's just not my nature. My ascendant ruler is next to Ketu. Mm-hmm. It's right next to Ketu, and it's right next to the 12th ruler. I am way too introverted for that. But let's move on because I have a lot of information for students. Sure. Okay. Westerners particularly must understand the way the scriptures were written. They are written in great emphasis and exaggeration. Mm-hmm. This is why the texts never made it to America. I read the book. It said if Saturn's in the 5th house, you will have lost your mind. It said if you have a malefic in the 3rd house, you will lose your hands, your fingers. What they were saying is Saturn in the 5th house depresses the mind, but they exaggerate. Okay? The whole scriptures are like that in the translations that we have. That's how they are. So once I understood that, I could see. This helped me very much with these misunderstandings. I'm going to give you 3 misunderstandings. If a planet, it'll say in the scripture, if a planet is retrograde, if it's exalted but retrograde, then it's fallen. No, it doesn't act fallen. It just doesn't act as good.
Oh.
If a planet is fallen but retrograde, it's exalted.
Example.
No, it's not exalted, but it's better. Okay? Second, these are critical points. Transits from the moon. The book will say you must do transits from the moon. So the astrologers think, forget about the ascendant, go by the moon. What they mean is, it is understood. You don't have to say, and do it. It's understood. Why is it understood? Because astrology is always going for the more specific, not the more general. Everybody born on one particular day is likely to have the moon in the same sign.
Right.
50,000 people born on a particular day, 45,000 of them are going to have the same exact transits. It's too general.
Yeah.
They work. If I see Jupiter aspecting the fourth house and the ruler of the fourth house, and the fourth house from the moon, I can strongly predict they're going to get a house or a car. If the moon gets in there and the ascendant, but you don't just use it from the moon. It doesn't make sense.
James, I would like to add here that unfortunately most of our classics have just stressed about the moon, and so have the modern astrologers, but there is one particular classic called Satyacharyam, which in English is available as Satya Jatakam. It does mention from the Lagna.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
it is written by Sage Satyacharyam.
It's common sense that you have to use.
Yeah.
Next one. I don't know how you pronounce this, Vargotama or Vargotama. How do you pronounce it? Either.
Vargotama.
Okay.
Vargotama.
It does not work. In my experience, it does not work. You can use it, and if it works for you, fine. In my book, I say, if the planet is, Vargotama means that if a planet's in Libra in the natal and Libra in the Navamsha, it's going to act like it's in its own sign. It's going to be great. If Mercury's in Sagittarius in both the natal and the Navamsha, it's going to be great. Not my experience. I don't use it. Not my experience. Nichabanga. If a planet, Nichabanga Raja Yoga means if a planet is fallen, but it has certain conditions, it's with an exalted planet, or the ruler of that sign is angular, whatever. There's a lot of rules. They say, it'll become a Raja Yoga. That'll happen about 10 to 20% maybe. It happens sometimes. It doesn't happen all the times. It doesn't.
Why? Why it doesn't happen?
It's a weak technique in my experience. It's just not a good technique. Sometimes it works, but very, very rarely. Rarely enough that I don't use it. You know what I use it for? I use it if I don't want to depress the person. If I say, well, there's a possibility. I don't tell them it's at 20%. There is. Nichabanga does work. There are times, Chakrapani teaches a class on Nichabanga, and he gives lots of examples. Those examples are 1 out of 10 people that have it. So I tell them there's a chance it might do good for you, but it's not likely. Rahu and Ketu, the best placements, there's very little in the scriptures, very little about Rahu and Ketu placements. All they say is Rahu's exalted in Taurus. Padya taught me that Rahu and Ketu are best placed in Virgo first and Gemini second, because Rahu is a demon or a dragon. It's an animal. It needs the intelligence of Mercury. When I would go to spiritual communities, which I've done many times, different spiritual communities, you will find Ketu in Virgo or Ketu in Gemini, where it's very strong. Ketu is psychic, metaphysical, spiritual tendencies. You will also find very often in these communities, I mean very often, Ketu will either be in Virgo or Gemini, or Ketu will be conjunct a benefic, like Jupiter, Venus, Mercury. Now Jupiter, Mercury, or Venus will be spoiled by being near Ketu. Ketu is like a black hole. So a planet near my Venus is right next to Ketu. This is great for Ketu, gives me psychic abilities, astrological. It's terrible for Venus. So, but you will find in spiritual communities lots of people with Moon conjunct Ketu, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury becomes very strong.